Hello, what is up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to the Powercast. And today we're going to be recapping Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, Season 4, Episode 7. And the title of the episode is Allow Me to Reintroduce Myself. And I am joined today by Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you doing, Richard?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
What's up, indeed? And I'm also joined by Miss Dana Abercrombie. How are you doing, Dana?
Hello, everyone. I am excited to be here. This is a very interesting episode that I have a lot of mixed feelings about, and so I will explain that. But I'm excited still to be here and to be watching this show. It is still a very strong show and a very strong season, so let's see what happens.
Oh yeah, can't wait to hear more about those mixed thoughts on this episode from you. Um, but yeah, big shouts to the people listening as always. I want to encourage everyone to subscribe to the channel, leave your comments, let us know your thoughts and theories on the episode. And as one YouTuber that I watch sometimes says, please super violate the like button. Also, um, shouts to Hassan Campbell, he says that. But yeah, super violate the like button,
No
please.
diddy.
Um, no Diddy, no Diddy. But yeah, shouts to all the people because we always get great comments on this show. Um, and yeah, big shouts to Tracy Lee also because she drops some amazing comments sometimes. So yeah, but let's get right into our takeaways for this episode. And it is my turn to go first this week. So I'm going to jump right into it. So, what I'll say is this episode really makes me wonder what Raquel's fate is going to be at the end of all of this. Because, currently, if you look at it, she's down on the chessboard because Unique has kind of snuck up. He's got his crew together and they're kind of just taking over everything. Like they've taken the customers away from the Chinese restaurant. He's messing with Kanan and everything. He's taken Kwan away. He's really just kind of scooping up all the territory and all the power right now. So like Raquel is kind of a little bit behind on the chessboard because now she's waiting for the connect to get the product together and everything. And also something that I'm going to talk a bit more about later. But Stefano seems to have his faith in her seems to have waned a little, a little bit because now he wants to work with Marvin. So Raquel, it's not looking good for her right now. And then the number one person Raquel I feel has to worry about at this moment is Kanan. Because now Kanan thinks that she had Famous killed, and actually she might not have because you know at the start of the episode where they have the round table and Raquel's explaining to Marvin, Jukebox, and Kanan that Unique is back and everything, and he turned up inside the house. When she's explaining that, Kanan, he's instantly like, "Oh, did he kill Famous?" Because Raquel told him that he killed Andre and everything. And in that moment, Raquel could have just lied and said, "Yeah, it was Unique." If she was the one that killed Famous, she could have easily just lied and said, maybe it was Unique or something like that. But she stated that it couldn't have been Unique who did that. It's not his style or whatever she said. Um, so maybe it wasn't Raquel, but Kanan thinks that she is involved because he drove by and he saw her handing the money to the cops and everything. And I forgot about those cops. When I saw that, I remembered back to I think it was the previous season where at first they were kind of sabotaging her business, but then she kind of paid them off and stuff like that. She gave into the bribes. But yeah, I mean, who knows? She could have had things killed, or she could not have. but just the way that she kind of like made it clear that Unique didn't kill Famous makes me think maybe she didn't have anything to do with it, and maybe maybe the drama is that Kanan thinks she did it, but she actually didn't. Maybe it was someone else. Maybe there's a twist still coming. You know. But yeah, because Kanan believes that she might have been involved, this kind of makes things worse for their relationship currently, because it's already at a bad point. Because we see the way Kanan talks to her. Like, he talks to her like so disrespectfully that even Marvin's like, yo, we have to put a belt to him or something. Like, we have to put a belt to this kid. And Jukebox has to remind them like he's a grown up, like he's a whole adult now, basically. Because I'm guessing Kanan's probably like 16, 17, 18, around that age somewhere. So he's grown. He's not a kid. He's not like a kid that you can put a belt to and he'll change. Like, he's Kanan now. So that's not really gonna work. And then Jukebox is like, maybe you should listen to him. But I don't think Raquel will ever listen to him. I think she's always going to feel like his mother, and she's always going to be his baby. And that's why she's not really, with putting the belt to Kanan. He is her weakness, basically. He's her biggest weakness, because she's going to protect him no matter what. And that's why Kanan can steal from her and get away with it repeatedly, because he's stolen from her before, in was it season 1 or season 2? He like, he straight up stole from the stash, like, and she knew about it, but she just doesn't do anything. So he is her number one weakness. And if her number one weakness starts working against her, then yeah, that's gonna go pretty bad for her, especially with Unique around as well. So just with the way things are looking right now, um, I think, like, I'm wondering if Raquel dies at this point, because um, you know, because we always go back to original power, where Kanan's like, I'm going to see my mother, and some that makes some people believe she lives, but he could be talking about seeing her at the cemetery or something, or nursing home even, or something like that. So Raquel's fate, at this point, I think either she goes crazy or something and ends up in a home or something, or she dies. Like, because it's looking like, I feel like by the end of this season, you know, Raquel is going to be dethroned. Like, she might be out the game for good by the end of this season. By the way it's looking right now, because there's so much stacked against her, and it's going to take something drastic from her side, from her point, to change things. And then, of course, we have a very touching ending to this episode, where she is the one who kind of gives in to her mother's request, and it is a very touching thing. I've lost two grandparents, which was very tough, very hard for me. And I don't even want to imagine what it's like to lose a parent, So that scene definitely that definitely hit, that scene. And I want to say, like, both Unique and Raquel were doing great stuff with their acting in this episode. Like, Unique, because, like, just the way he was, like, he was going from talking calm to yelling all of a sudden, like having these outbursts, which it kind of reminded me of, like, Damson Idris in Snowfall a little bit. Like, he just having these tantrums and stuff like that. Um, and Raquel, yeah, she always does a great job. Like, but yeah, she was phenomenal in this episode. So yeah, very touching scene. And I want to know, like, how is this going to affect her now? That the mother has passed, and she was the one to do it, and she kind of has to, like, live with it. Maybe in a way it gives her some peace, because she could be like, I helped her. I helped her ease her way out, of this life, so that she's not in pain and stuff like that. But she could also, it could also touch her deeply just to know that she was the one that was like, cold enough to do that, whereas her brothers couldn't do it. But yeah, very touching, and I just feel like the way things are set up now is set up for Raquel to lose at the end of the season, because you have Kanan and you have Unique, and both of them are just like super hungry right now. Like they're both hungry to kind of get to the top of the game, and Raquel is just she hasn't been as calculating as she once was. She still is the most calculating in the family, but she hasn't been as on top of her game as we've seen her previously. So yeah, it's set up for Raquel to lose, and I'm really wondering um, how that happens by the end of the season. Um, yeah, but so that was my first takeaway. So let's move on to Marvin. So look, my second takeaway is kind of a question, because I'm wondering, is Marvin really built for the crown? Now, obviously, Stefano, he after he meets with both Marvin and Raquel, he decides to meet with Marvin alone in the second meeting, and he basically, comes at him with, the offer of, I think you need to be the one to, kind of lead things, because I guess he's concerned about Raquel and her emotions and her ties to Unique. Um, but first things first, I think Stefano was wrong there, because I do think that Raquel is someone who can control her emotions very well. Like I don't think she'll let her, like, first of all, I don't even think she loved Unique like that. Like she didn't have feelings. Like she liked him, like he was a cool brother. She knew him and everything, but I don't think like it was like love, love, love. Like I don't think it was, like that. But yeah, even so, I think Raquel is able to control her emotions. So I don't. I think Stefano was kind of wrong in this situation, but just the fact that he stepped to Marvin with that offer, it makes me think, like, is Marvin, capable of that? And we do see that later in the episode, he does stand up to Raquel. Um, when it comes to the conversation of Stefano, and she's asking him, like, he owns up to the fact that he was doing work for, Stefano before, and he stands his ground. He doesn't kind of back down to Raquel, so he is kind of showing a little independent streak there. And we know that he's very capable. He's good with his hands. He can get some stuff done. But I think his skill set makes him more suited to being like the muscle. Being the number one soldier, because he can definitely get stuff done. But can he lead though? That's the thing. Um, and you know when it comes to leading, it's not just about giving orders and making moves. Like, you have to really, you have to think 5 steps ahead, and I'm not sure he is someone who can do that at this point in time. So I don't know. I don't see him in the leadership role. I mean, it would be cool to see, it happen, just because I feel like I feel like it would be a disaster in motion. Like, I feel like it would be like a disaster movie, like just waiting to see when it all crumbles on him. And that could be entertaining to watch. But I feel like him and Raquel bounce well off of each other, and I don't think he can kind of set off on his own and run things on his own. But he might actually have to do that. If Raquel does lose her power, or she decides to step away from the game or something of that nature, he might find himself having to work for himself. So And we know Lou has his own thing going on with the music and stuff. Like he has his own passion. But what does Marvin have? Does he have a passion on the side or anything? Like he doesn't really have anything. It's like this is what he does. So um yeah, is it's going to be interesting. But I think that's going to be one of my questions that we get to later. Is Marvin built for the crown? You know, can he wear the crown? Can he lead his own family, if you will, like his own criminal organization? You know, so that's my second takeaway. And final takeaway is I'm scared for Lou now because in this episode, when there was a few little meetings with the family in this episode. The first one was with Raquel, Kanan, Marvin, and Jukebox, and then you also had like a little round table of Raquel, Lou, and Marvin. Now we know that Lou has, he's been pretty together lately. He's been doing well for himself. He stopped drinking. He attends the AA meetings and stuff and gives speeches, and he's he helps inspire people. And he's also doing the music thing with B-Rilla. He's connected with Amani and everything. He really played like a mentorship or a leadership role in B-Rilla's career. Just the way he conducted himself in the meetings and everything. Like we saw the growth in the character when during those scenes and everything. But in this episode, he was back to talking that gangster-ish. Like he was talking like a gangster again. He was like, "Yo, Unique's not gonna step to my family. I'm gonna step to him or whatever." Like whatever he said. Like I'm gonna be first in line. Something of that nature. He said, and that makes me scared because it's like you've already kind of removed yourself. You're in your own lane right now. So for you to come back into it, it makes me think: is he going to be the first to go? Is he going to be the sacrificial lamb? Is he going to be, the victim that makes us weep? Um, you know, like so that just had me on edge. It's like, oh no, is he really going to get back into this? Because like on the surface, it seems like everything's going so well for him right now. Obviously, we know that on the side, B Rilla's making moves. He did he he had a whole blunder in this episode with that robbery. Luckily for him, it it wasn't like the main guy at the house and stuff. So and they didn't see him. But I do have a question about that later on for you guys about B Rilla. But yeah, like with B Rilla doing things like that on the side, it's not gonna bode well for Lou. But I also think it's really not going to bode well if he starts getting back involved in the family business with Unique around, because there was a scene earlier this season when before Unique revealed himself, where Unique was watching Lou. So, like that could be foreshadowing for all we know. So I think Lou should kind of stay out of this one, because yeah, I am scared for him at this moment. Like if he decides to um, be the ones who kind of like settle this Unique situation, and like he makes his own little move, step into Unique, and you know ends up kidnapped or whatever. Like it's going to be like heartbreaking, if that happens, because we know the journey he's on. We know what he's been through. We know what he's overcome. So hopefully that doesn't go bad for him and the family, uh, because just the way the story is right now and some of the things in this episode, it makes me think Lou is the character they would kill off at this point in time, because it's like his story. It's it's a cool story. Don't get me wrong, but it's disposable. It's a disposable story. Like they could get rid of it. So I'm just hoping that it doesn't end up that way. Um, yeah, because when I saw him talking like that, I was like, oh no. Like just keep yourself away from what's going on, please. But yeah, those are my takeaways for this week. I got more stuff to ask you guys later on, but we're gonna hear from Miss Dana Abercrombie now when she's ready. So Dana, when you're ready, take it
Okay,
away.
Dokie. I'm gonna take it away. Okay, so my three takeaways, and I want to say this as someone who loves the show. This is not a criticism. Oh my God, this show is terrible. This is just a slight thing that is my own personal pet peeve. Okay, that's it. That's all. Y'all remember The Incredibles, the original Incredibles, and how they laid out certain rules. You don't wear a cape, that kind of thing. Because, you'll end up, Kate will get caught in the engine and you'll die that way. One of the other rules that they laid out was we do not monologue our plans about what is going to happen. As with you, the villain, do not monologue those plans. And from the very beginning of this episode, what did Unique do? He monologued his entire plan to Raquel, told him what he did before, during, and what he is planning to do on after. And that just aggravated my entire soul because now she knows your game plan. Even if you was to say, I have the strongest soldiers standing with me, and one person is a serial killer, and the other one is, I don't know, Hannibal Lecter, and then Jesus himself is on my side, do not tell your plans. It's as simple as that. I thought initially that he was going to play that what do you call it? Trick her in a way. Oh, I'm back. I survived. Oh, this horrible thing that happened. I was got into a fight with Ronnie, and just lie and play her, and then that way he can get up close and cause even more havoc. Instead, he spews out everything. And what does Raquel do? She tells the whole family. She tells Stefano. She tells everyone that she can. And now it's like everyone knows what everyone is going to do. And for me, it's just frustrating. And it's not to say that there aren't any surprises to come. I don't know. I have no idea what the next episodes are going to bring. But for me, just overall, you don't monologue your plans to people. It's as simple as that. Oh, I'm going to kill you. You better make sure you're in your house on Tuesday at 5:09 Eastern Standard Time, and make sure that you leave that door unlocked. It's just I just don't get it. I don't understand. I didn't like it. I'm sorry.
Make sure you
So
have pecan
I
ice cream.
had the butter pecan ice cream in the refrigerator because I know that's what I like. That's our thing. That's our ice cream. I hated that. But I did like the fact that it was a nice callback to the butter pecan ice cream right there. And I was wondering during that whole time, is she gonna tell him that she was pregnant, and like maybe she could have lied and been like, "Well, I'm pregnant," which technically wasn't a lie, but it's gone now. But he doesn't have to know that. It's your baby, something like that. She didn't even do that. She was just like the whole time. I'm gonna tell Marvin, Lulu. Anyway, so I was just thoroughly frustrated. But I will say this about Raquel, and this is what I do love about Raquel, that we kind of also we've seen throughout the entire season, and we've seen played out in the very ending. People are thinking like, oh my gosh, she's really heartless, and she's the mean one in order to kill her mother. I think she's the one with the most strength to actually kill her mother, because no matter at the end of the day she's going through that relationship, even if it's like, oh, I'm so happy you did, that's her mother. She has the strongest connection, whether it's built in hatred or love, with her mother. So to do that, while the two other ones, yeah, you got to do it. I don't know what to do. Oh, her ability to compartmentalize is what makes her a leader. So in Gary, when you ask that question, will Marvin be able to lead? No, not the way that Raquel can. because she has way too many things that she is able to put in her own little separate space and then not deal with. And we saw moments of her like crack, but she never folded. And I think that that is what makes her a real exception to kind of the whole family. Now, if I do not see Raquel coming out of this, my whole thing is the whole family is going to die. Obviously, aside from Jukebox and Kanan, I'm just a person who roots for death. But I think that when she folds, if she is the first one to go, whether it's through death or jail, that entire family falls apart without her. Because she is the one who says, you do this, you do that. No, I don't want you to focus on this. You make sure that you stay in, your 30-day rehab and you make sure you have this. That is how I view her. And when Marvin is placed in that predicament where it's like, hey, Stefano kind of wants you dead. And then she's like, well, we got to take, there's that wondering of, well, who's going to take out Stefano or who's going to take out Raquel? Who's going to get to whom first? It seems like. And there's no way in anyone's heaven or hell that Marvin, I feel, is going to take Raquel out. Because again, he's weak. He does not have that kind of one willpower to do that. And I've never, so far, you may be angry at Raquel for how she may have treated you, but was she wrong the entire time? If she called you a dum dum, were you not acting in dum dum ways? So my thing is that he does not have that kind of will, not even willpower. He doesn't have that kind of finesse thing. If you looked at what happened with him and Stefano, he was working on a little side. He likes a little adulation, but it was never like, I want to be number one. I want to overtake you. It was always like, an underling. And I think that's what he serves best as an underling. And the fact that not Marvin, Lulu is in the game, that frustrated me very much so, because it's like you have a very good thing going, and I understand with fame, and you're really upset about fame. I get it, but at the same time, so what? And I'm not to say that you don't have a relationship, because they've known fame since he was in kindergarten. So, that's a whole completely different relationship, and that's a child at the end of the day. But are you willing to go to jail for this kid? To me, I think it's a sorry loss, but it's a loss that happens, because the streets needed a body, as Fame said. So yeah, I just didn't like that kind of part. Also, kind of just a little bit of a pet peeve. Again, that very very ending where she killed her mama. It might have just been me. It felt like a little soap opera drama. I thought I was watching The Gates on CBS. That's what I messaged Richard. I'm like, who directed this? This is very soap opera-y. It was a little corny with the music. It felt like and then you fade to black. So yeah, but then kind of lastly in this entire situation, um, again I don't like the girlfriend. I cannot stand. What is his name? Lulu. No, yep, Lulu. I don't like the girlfriend or the not. I just think she is annoying. See, this is me, and I don't know. I'm sorry. I can't stand women who are just like, oh my god, you had a girlfriend before me? Oh, how dare you? And that's what she gives me. She gives me the energy of how dare you had a life before me. I'm supposed to be the only life that you have. I'm supposed to be the only girl that you love. So I can't stand that whole situation. The B-Rilla of it all. He really got lucky this time. This was a huge Hail Mary for him because that whole thing was a hot mess. And I kind of wish that, I like the fact that we didn't go inside with the robbery because that big surprise thing with him, I forgot the white guy's name. Him walking through the door, be like, hello, good morning. Guess what happened? My place was robbed. That would have, I was like, oh, but that was a really good moment. But the thing there, B-Rilla was like, obviously, he was so like, oh my God, did he say he was gonna come? Who called him? Was it just the office? Did you actually speak to him? Like I understand the emotion behind that. I thought it was very good emoting that he did party. I thought he was wonderful with that. But I'm wondering, will this now have impact on how he raps? Because he came way too close to somebody dying. So it's interesting to say, and then you talk about, and then I shoot a hoe, and then the hoe is dead, and then I go to the next hoe, and she give me some food. I don't know, rapping about killing and murdering, which was the whole thing. The why Lulu was like, I don't like what you're doing, and actually doing it and being there. And the fact that he was so shaken up about it makes me seem that it may be a Rick Ross situation ship where we're rapping about things that we're really not involved in. So I'm wondering if he's going to now take Lulu's words into consideration and change how he raps. So that should be another interesting aspect from that. So I think that is number 3. Also, I just wanted a little side note thingy. Jukebox got happy again when she saw that gun. And he was like, take the gun. And she was like, oh, he's giving me a gun. He's giving me a gun. So you see that. I think, Marvin, yes, we all know the streets are going to be hot because they said it multiple times. The streets are going to be hot. But also, I feel that he has accepted the fact that his daughter just might be a little bit crazy with this gun. And that this is something that he has created, not in a literal standpoint, as in like, here's the gun and we got to shoot somebody at the age of like, I don't know, 2, but because of the environment that he put her in, this is who she is. And it would be best to no longer fight it. And so that is why here's the gun. Whatever happens, I know you're gonna probably do something crazy, and you might end up being the next serial killer. Remember the movie Monster with that Eileen Woodrow? Maybe she ends up being the black version of that lady. But he just has to come to terms with that, and also he wants to protect his daughter. So to me, that was really like a okay situationship. And there was something else that I wanted to mention, but I completely forgot what it is. So maybe our conversation ships will help jar that memory. But that is kind of my top 3-ish overall with some side notes that I wanted to say.
Yeah, excellent takeaways. And yeah, shouts to Party because yeah, his expressions and everything, his reactions, like yeah, definitely sold it well. But I am curious to see how that ends up for him, and yeah, like could this be what makes him switch up his style a little bit, change his lyrics, and maybe take on Lou's feedback and everything like that? So yeah, good points overall. And now we're gonna hear from Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. So Richard, when you're ready, take it away.
So first and foremost, as always, outstanding takeaways by Dana and Gary. You both made a lot of great points. Some of the things you saw me shaking my head because I'm in full agreement. So, but I do have 3 takeaways I want to get into, and I also have 2 other things I want to mention that we didn't touch upon yet. So let me start by saying I thought this was an excellent episode of Razor Kanan. For those who are not aware, they are taking a break next week. So there will not be a new Raising Kanan episode until May 2nd. All right. So I just want to make sure you guys are aware of that. But yeah, my 3 takeaways. First and foremost, let's go to Unique because this was quite an interesting episode for this character. Shout out to Joey Badass. Once again, phenomenal acting. A range of emotions, mainly anger. But I loved all of it. Now, I will say this, though. I agree 1,000% with what Dana said. I don't like someone who is a villain telling their whole plan to the person that they're going against. And again, obviously, we know that Unique is obviously bragging to Raquel about killing Andre, talking about his plot, all the stuff he's going to do. But yes, but as you know, this now will give Raquel an advantage because now she knows that you're coming after her, so she can plan accordingly. So I do want to see where they're going with that. What I found interesting is, obviously Unique finally reunited with Panessa. The way he reunited with her, I thought that was a bit cliche. You know, we've seen that in movies, TV shows. You know, the woman is dropping groceries or something, and here he comes, the knight in shining armor coming out of nowhere to reunite with his woman. Now, so, I mean, we knew it was going to happen because he kept dropping off money. So, I mean, I'm glad that they established that. But once again, one thing I love about this show is that, well, first and foremost, the writing on the show is still outstanding. The line that Unique told Raquel, before I bury you in the ground, I'm going to bury you on these blocks. Phenomenal line. Phenomenal line. And I love that type of writing. So I got to give them props on that. So yeah, the writing is good. And then one thing I do like that they did is that they again emphasized that Unique is not the same person, because the way he just flipped the script on Raquel yelling at her, and then Panessa, because even Panessa was like, I don't think that Raquel would work with Ronnie. Are you sure about that? And anytime anyone doubted him, Unique just went off the handle. So that tells you, again, it emphasizes what they told us from the start of this season, that Unique is not going to be the same person, because he can get triggered very easily. And of course, that injury that he sustained, it's still there. He didn't get the proper treatment for that. So I look forward to seeing where they're going with that. But yes, the fact that he did tell Raquel all of his plans, now it makes me curious to see how they are going to strategize that moving forward. He did tell Panessa that she can't go back to Queens. He did get her a new place for her and their child together. So I do want to see where they're going with that. Obviously, we got a couple of episodes left this season, and then we're going on to season 5. So I look forward to seeing where they go with that. My second takeaway, and this is, again, I want to touch upon Lou and B-Rilla in this episode. Okay, so let me start off by saying this. You know, obviously, Lou had the conversation with Amani in this episode because she is finally starting to catch feelings for Lou. And I agree with what Dana said. You know, I don't necessarily like those type of characters, but I will say this. I think this reinforces 1000% what Gary said about Lou's fate, because you see that we go back to the previous episode when he was talking, when all the stuff was, when he found out about Famous, and then he was thinking about doing something, and he was talking to Amani about this, and she thought he was talking about death and going after somebody, and she didn't like that he had that mindset. And she made it very clear in this episode, she didn't want to have her heart broken from being with somebody and then something happens. And I think that what Gary said when he did his takeaways about when we go back to the season premiere and you saw that Unique had an opportunity to take out Lou, but he did not. I definitely think that is foreshadowing for what can happen in the future. Now, whether or not it happens in the season finale or it happens at the start of season 5, because one thing we do know is that when they announced season 5, they had a photo of all of the actors. You had London Brown, you had Patina, and you had Malcolm, all have photos where they were holding up 5 fingers to signify, yes, they got approved for season 5. So it could be a situation where something does happen to Lou, and it could be a cliffhanger, and then we find out in the season premiere, yes, he is taken out. Because one thing that is clear about the storyline is that they made it very, very clear to both Unique and Raquel, there can be no more bodies. All the stuff they're doing business-wise, there can be no bodies. This is the reason why Unique did not kill Raquel right then and there in this episode. It's the reason why they got to be careful about how they move, because once somebody gets killed, that's what starts a war. So I think 100% Lou is possibly going to be that person that gets killed, and that's what starts this war. So stay tuned for that, because it's very likely to happen. We'll have to see about that. And moving quickly to B-Rilla in this episode, you know, I was the delivery driver, you know, like I said last week, right? I wasn't in this episode, however, because again, they had to make it short, cut it short, make it easier, which is fine. But B-Rilla, the botched robbery, we knew that was going to happen. Obviously, the people that were staying at Lowell's place, it wasn't the executive. The executive's name, I believe, is Lowell. He wasn't there. He had people staying there for the weekend. and of course somebody had a gun. So I did think it was funny, as both Dana and Gary said, the reaction that Party had as the character when he found out that this guy was still alive and he just showed up to the studio. I thought that was hilarious because, yes, he's obviously glad that things did not escalate. But the thing is, this is still under an investigation. And I do think at some point it will come back that he will find out that B-Rilla has something to do with this, and that will not be good for B-Rilla moving forward. So we have to stay tuned to see where this goes. But it's not going to be a happy ending for this character, even though he might have gotten free in this episode. I think we all know eventually he is going to get caught because somebody did get killed. And of course, the people that were working with B-Rilla, his boy, I'm pretty sure his boy is not going to be happy about the fact that things went the way they did. They're going to be some type of backlash. So stay tuned for that. And my final takeaway for this episode, and this is about Kanan. Okay, this was a very interesting episode for Kanan. Now, I go to the point that Gary made earlier about how he talks to his mom. One thing I picked up in that conversation, which I thought was very hilarious, is that Kanan tried to lecture his mom about taking care of the people below her. And the fact is, Kanan has not been doing that with his crew, because in the previous episode, he asked them for intel, get me intel on what happened with Famous. He said he was going to pay them. We never saw him pay them in that episode. And then in this episode, they're obviously still looking for product. Kanan says, I got you guys. But obviously, he ain't got the product to them yet. So clearly, he needs to take a look in the mirror, and he also needs to practice what he preaches. If he's going to judge his mom and talk about what she isn't doing right, he needs to look at what he's doing wrong as well. So very interesting. Obviously, in this episode, we all see that his boy OC is missing. So I am here to tell you all today, OC had a sinus infection. I am his doctor. And I was the one that prescribed him medicine. This is why he was not in the episode. So we'll have to wait and see where they're going with that. But I do have a theory as to what is going on with OC. I really do hope that Gary has a question about that later, because I've thought about this. I have, I think, a very good theory as to what's going on with that situation. So stay tuned for that. But moving on to Kanan, he does offer Jukebox partnership in the business. We already know that he had money set aside. That money was obviously stolen. And this is why Kanan is now angry, because he wants answers. But then also towards the end of this episode, Kanan sees his mom paying some cops. So now he thinks that Raquel played a role in killing Famous. And once again, because this goes to the theory that Gary mentioned on the previous episode, thinking that she is responsible for this. I will say this. We will get our definitive answer by the end of this season. I think they made that very clear with what they have been saying in interviews. So stay tuned for that. But very interesting that he's coming to this conclusion. And he does tell Crystal this information because Crystal is the only one that he can trust right now. So I do want to see where they're going with that. So we have to stay tuned. But the final two things I want to mention, because I've already mentioned my takeaways, the final 2 points I want to mention. First and foremost, shout out to Dana, because she just published an interview with Snaps and Pops that she did. Okay? Very interesting how when Raquel and Marvin approached them in this episode to warn them about Unique, first they asked for help. And they said, no, that's not our problem. Then they said, well, that could be a warning. And then you heard them say when they left, that could be an opportunity. So that is important to pay attention to that detail, ladies and gentlemen, because I do think they're going to try to use that to their advantage, because they already don't like dealing with Raquel enough as it is. And obviously they can just try to really add fuel to the fire in this thing between Unique and Raquel. So stay tuned for that. And the final thing I will mention about this episode, we know when Stefano was talking to Marvin, he mentioned that one of the guys that they found in the river, one of the guys that he wants answers about what happened to this guy. They don't know who killed him. We know in the previous episode, Early Tyler complained to Marvin about a made man that wasn't paying. So, and obviously Early Tyler wasn't in this episode. Okay, so I believe Early Tyler has something to do with that. That will come back on Marvin, because you notice when Stefano mentioned this to Marvin, Marvin like paused for a second because he knows, because in the previous episode, earlier Tyler told him about the problem he was having, and Marvin's like, that's not my issue. So very important details to pay attention to moving forward. But overall, fantastic episode of Raising Kanan, and I look forward to seeing what happens next.
Can I just say that?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dana.
I just wanted to say that Richard made me change my point of view on the girl, Lulu's girl, who, again, I'm sorry, I will never, Amani, I will never like, because I just don't like those kind of women. But I'm kind of wondering this. In a way, I'm starting to feel that she may be the one who saves Lou from this whole thing, and that will be his exit to leave. Not just the family, the business, but New York itself. And they go to, I don't know, Atlanta, LA, whatever's popping with the music over there. Because the way how you set it up, where you explain, she didn't want him to be involved with this mess and everything else. And then we saw the Jessica, the sister, like she was like, oh, come and stay with me. And I thought that was him signing his death warrant. With this girl here, kind of maybe being that same opportunity, she could be the one that saves him. And that is why we don't see Lulu in the season 5, that little picture thing that they did together. Was not because he's dead, but because he's gone. Maybe, I don't know.
I think that's a good theory. No, he was in the picture too, but that's a very good theory.
He was in the picture?
Yeah, he was in there. Pretty much everybody survived in the family. They all put their fingers up to suggest, yeah, we're all going to be in season 5. But obviously, that could, I don't know if they're going, that can get changed up. We have to wait and see.
Yeah, it could get changed up. And then another thing I quickly wanted to say in regards to Kanan thinking that it was Raquel who killed Famous. Remember, because of the whole cop situation, and he saw him give the money, he saw Raquel give the cops money to pay him off. Remember, it was Snaps and Pops who initially put that idea, not that she killed Famous, but put the idea that, she's willing to do things that a real drug dealer lore wouldn't do because she was paying the cops. And he was like, oh, do you want to be like your mother who pays off people like the cops? Or do you want to be your own man? So I'm wondering, I think maybe Snaps and Pops is slowly starting to get their feels in Kanan.
Very good point.
Kanan is also just dumb as well because he's very young and he's sort of paying the cops. So it was my mom's. Okay, sure.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I do think Snaps and Pops are trying to, they're trying to sway him away from his mother. And going back to the point, Richard made earlier when he said, Kanan was criticizing Raquel, but he's doing the same thing by not looking out for his people and stuff. I like that this version of Kanan still has a lot to learn. Like he's making, very simple mistakes. So he's not perfect yet. He's not the Kanan that we see yet. He still has a lot of developing to do. And that's why I think it's going to be important that he aligns himself with people like Jukebox and maybe later on Breeze, and because I'm sure that's coming soon. Like I do think he needs to get that total package, eventually. But yeah, he has a lot to learn. He's still kind of dumb, like you said, Dana. Go ahead.
And then on top of that, I think because he's dumb because she was paying the cops off since I think probably from the beginning, just in general. And then Howard, you got that whole situation. He was a cop. He is technically he died a cop. Think he was active. No, he was not active. But the point is, she's been involved with police. So why all of a sudden would it now be, oh, she's paying off the cops because of Famous? That just doesn't make any sense logically on top of that. But this is how I feel. What's that man's name with the face and the and monologuing and I'm gonna get you? Unique. Okay, so this is what I feel how Unique further gets his claws into Kanan is by using that vulnerability, that mental vulnerability that Kanan has to go against Raquel. I feel at this, I'm going by that picture, and we don't know if that's from season 5 or that's from season 4 when that picture was taken. But the point is, they was in that doorway together. So I'm just kind of wondering, is that going to be how Kanan ends up siding with a Unique, or if he does at all? I don't know. But it just feels kind of that way. And OC missing, it would make more sense to me that Unique took out OC to get to Kanan. Not just to get to Kanan, but he has no more need now that he has the money. Unique has the money, I feel. There is, because all of a sudden but we bought a new place for Panessa. And you could argue maybe that is from the money that he took from the Chinese place spot. But at the same time, it's interesting how he's like, oh no, the money's gone. And then we cut to Panessa, I want you to move into this lovely place. And then he goes crazy. And another thing I just wanted to say, because I'm starting to remember things, I'm sorry, I'll shut up, I promise,
Oh,
is
no, you're good.
this. The whole situation, remember when he kept flipping on Panessa and he was like, oh, I love you so much. Oh, but I don't think you love me because now all of a sudden you questioning me. You just like any other girl. That whole flip between the two. I'm starting to wonder if Parnessa is going to go to Raquel because she knows where he lives. Remember she tried to kill Raquel because she thought that she killed Unique? Anyway, I'm wondering if she's going to go to Raquel and be like, hey, hi, he's acting crazy and I'm really scared and he just told me his plan, and so I'm not sure if you know this, but he wants to kill you and then probably me too. So she's going to start feeding him more information. Maybe. And then this is how Pranessa dies. Because Pranessa has to die. Once he flipped like that at the table, I was like, yeah, she gonna die. Not now, but she gonna die. So that's how she dies.
That's a great point. I just want to make a comment. It's not really a critique. I might get some people coming after me in the comments. Where is their kid? Their kid wasn't in this episode. Was he? The kid hasn't been in the entire season. The kid hasn't been in any episodes this season.
Well, grandma.
Oh, grandma. Oh, that's where he's at. Okay, all right. There you go. Yeah. Okay. Continue.
Yeah, because I guess it was Panessa's mom's house where Raquel, Unique left the money, so maybe that's where the baby is.
Can I just say this episode had the second best line when she was like, "My mother needs dialysis and she has diabetes," and he was like, "That's your mama."
Yep.
Oh God. And she was like, "Excuse me, what?" That was, and then also on top of that, when the groceries went all on the street like that, I hope you cut away or at least cut off, didn't use the part of the greens because it was 4 oranges that fell. And then she had these bags of greens. They wasn't lettuce, they was dark leafy greens that also hit that nasty, dirty New York City street. So just a side note, I know it's not of any importance, but I hope she just, get rid of that part because that's the nasty ground and there's no washing from that. That's just nasty. You can't recover. Dogs be pooping and humans be pooping. Crack vials. Who knows what's on them streets?
Mad Tim's done touch the pavement and stuff. Like, yeah. But yeah, great points. So you mentioned OC and what his fate might be. You mentioned that you think Unique might get to him, which is interesting because that could happen. But yeah, that was like one of the things I wanted to bring up. So we might as well talk about it since you just bring it up. So basically, I wanted to know, what do you think is going to happen with OC? Like, is Kanan going to catch up to him? Is he going to, rough him up, torture him, or beat him up? What would you see happening with this whole OC thing? Obviously, you just said that you think Unique might get to him. But yeah, how do you see this whole thing playing out? Because now this is this is going to be part of Kanan's motivations now because he's lost his money and stuff, and that's going to be a big blow to him, losing that. So what do you see happening with the OC character now? And we have OC's doctor here, so maybe we should hear from the doctor himself. Richard, what do you see happening with OC?
Well, let me just say, I am the alibi. So if any officers ask me, that's what I will say. I'll be the alibi. But in all seriousness, I do like what Dana said about the fact that Unique, we already know that he's been feeding information to Unique. So it would make sense for Unique to get the money and he used that money to get Panessa's place. I'm totally okay with that theory. However, I have another different theory that I think would be quite interesting if they went in this direction. And my theory is that OC did steal the money and he has had a plot to basically turn against Kanan this entire time because he hasn't been getting the money that he has wanted to get from Kanan. Like I said earlier, Kanan hasn't been taking care of his people, all because of all this stuff happening with Quan, the deal, his mom. He hasn't had access to product and he hasn't been paying his guys. So I think that OC did do this, but I want to take it a step further, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to direct your attention to two important things. First and foremost, in this episode, when Kanan was at home, Crystal came in. You saw Kanan was in the dark, like he's obviously really a lot of things on his mind, a lot of anger. And he did tell Crystal that, hey, my mom did something. I believe my mom killed Famous, but he also asked her if he can trust her. Okay, let me bring you back to another scene. The other scene when Jukebox came over to visit Kanan and Crystal, and even she looked at Crystal and said, "Are you using Kanan for a come up?" And she's like, "No, I love Kanan. I really love Kanan." And let me bring you back to the last piece of evidence. The very first episode of the season, maybe it's the first or the second episode, when Crystal was at the old place with Kanan, OC showed up. She said hi to OC. Just a nice little, trying to make conversation with him, so on and so forth. And he just brushed it off very quickly and left. And then you know that she got into a fight with Kanan because of the fact that Kanan had got her pregnant, made her get an abortion. But then she made up with him shortly thereafter, and they just went on like nothing happened. So my theory is that OC and Crystal are working together against Kanan. And at the end of this season, when it is revealed that whoever took out Famous, in addition to that, Crystal leaves him. So, and it is discovered that she was working with OC this entire time. So Kanan has absolutely no one in his corner by the end of the season except Jukebox. And I say that because you got to pay attention to the thing. The fact that multiple people have questioned Crystal about whether or not she truly loves Kanan or she's basically trying to get a come up. I think that's important that was brought up multiple times by different characters. So that's my theory. I know it could be far-fetched, way out there, but there clearly is something going on with those two characters. And I would not be surprised, given her history about how she tried to set up Jukebox and she got into that fight with all those other girls. I would not be surprised if that's something that they're doing. So, but that's my theory. We'll have to wait and see. Like I said, I could be completely off, but I love what Dana said about Unique probably just took that money and used it to get that house. But I am curious to know what y'all think, as well as the people leaving comments, because I think they're definitely going somewhere with those two characters. That's just my thought.
No, I love that theory. Like I think that makes a lot of sense. Because in my head, I was thinking like with Crystal, because it does seem like he shouldn't trust her fully. In my head, I was thinking she was maybe a spy for Raquel or something. Like she was, telling Raquel everything. So that's what I thought about Crystal. But I think your theory makes a lot of sense, actually. If she's working with OC, like if she's been working with OC this whole time and they're kind of plotting on Kanan, I think that makes a lot of sense. And that would be a great twist as well to see play out. Yeah, but Dana, what are you thinking? Because I see you got the thinking face on right now.
I'm in the whole thinking contraption situationship where, like, I want to be with you, but at the same time, I think you watch too much Lifetime. Um, like, I will say this: it would make more sense to me that Crystal uses Kanan to get back at Jukebox for destroying Butter. She took her spot. And because of that whole, oh, your family is investigated by the feds, you're a bunch of drug dealers, Butter disband. I would be extremely upset about that because that was my opportunity to get my shot out. Not just money, but fame, reputation. I would be a global superstar. I'm still young. I'm a teenager. At that, the whole world would know me. They would basically be TLC of the TLC groups of whatever the TV land of the 90s is. So that to me would be more of her wanting to get back at Jukebox as opposed to getting back or doing some kind of comeuppance on Kanan. But at the same time, is she? This is why I'm debating with myself, which is why I got the faces on, because I want to say, is she smart enough to think that way? But at the same time, she was the one who hired those kids to beat up Jukebox to miss the rehearsal to get kicked out of the group. So what better way to not mosey yourself into the family by using your brother? And by that way, I can take OC, or we don't know what OC's origin came from. We don't know his origin story, and we don't also know which of Crystal's origin story. We don't go home with her. We could have a whole plot twist where OC could actually be her brother. Oh, step brother, side brother, foster brother in the streets. We don't really know. So that's
Yeah.
the part where I'm like, Richard, you might actually be onto something. But then at the same time, I'm wondering, are you still watching too many Lifetime movies? Because it could be a little bit far fetched. Where
Oh no, no, go ahead. I'll say after you. I'll go after
no,
you.
it's just like this is why I'm debating, because it's like you're giving so much attention to a side character, but at the same time, it's usually the side characters that can change the entire narrative of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So that is why it kind of would make sense to me, and I'm kind of on your team. But right now, I'm hopping the fence because I
Yeah.
don't know. Because there's so much going on within the show itself. Is this going to be another side storyline that they're going to deal with? And
Oh
then
no.
what was the? I mean, like
I
we
mean,
know that it was always okay.
oh no, go ahead. No, I just was gonna say, yeah, I like I said, I understand it's a far fetched theory. The reason why I was thinking about this again is because of the abortion. She really wants to start a family, okay? And the fact that Kanan, obviously he paid to take care of it, that's fine. But I kind of feel like she still might hold some resentment that she had to go through that process. And I feel like that's why I think it would make sense for her to want to get back at Kanan in some way. I don't know how she would do it, but I kind of feel like that's a possibility. But again, it could be far fetched. Like I said, I don't know. I'm just thinking there's a reason certain stuff is happening in the show, and we got to get some answers. But to answer to go to your point though, I don't think if Crystal and OC are playing on Kanan, I think eventually he will find out, and there will be some type of consequences for that. But I do think by the end of this season, Kanan will hit rock bottom, and I mean in terms of what's happening business wise, because he will find out who killed Famous. But I feel like there's other stuff that could happen that could really make him angry, and that's why I want to see which direction they're going to take it.
No, I completely agree, and I completely agree with you saying he has to hit rock bottom. Because to me, that would make more sense for Breeze to come in, if we even get a Breeze. Now, I know nobody knows about Breeze or what's going on, but just in theory, because this white man, Sasha, done said that there was going to be a Breeze, and it's never Breeze the Breeze, and I'm Breezy. But the point is this: if there is a Breeze, it would make sense for him to be like, hey, you've reached your rock bottom at this moment. You need help. So even if you forget Breeze at this moment, he's Mephisto of the Powerverse. This is how Tommy steps in and Ghost steps in. And you could even argue Tasha. She knows a little couple things. She gets bopped in the head every once in a while, but she knows some things. But just in general, I think what made them so powerful, going back to the original power, was that they had each other. And they were able to bounce off of each other. Even though initially in season 1, it was like, oh no, Kanan's back and he wants to kill us. But just going with chemistry and friendship wise, they had each other. And in order for that to happen, Kanan has to reach rock bottom, I feel. Because for Tommy and Ghost to come in, I think there needs to be that equal playing field. And, Kanan knew what he knew, but he failed at what he thought he knew. And these two come together and they start talking and mentoring with each other. And this is how they all rise to the ranks until they all betray Kanan. Oh. See, this is when I talk too much. And you have to please just cut me off. I was just saying, wouldn't it be sweet that he's now, he betrays someone. Maybe we'll see in this season, and then he gets betrayed. And when he gets older by the other two, like, oh, family really sucks. But the point that I'm simply saying is this. I completely agree with you, but I'm still kind of gun-ho on the fact that Crystal would be more upset with Jukebox because that was a dream. That that was a fierce dream as opposed to having a child. And I'm not saying that you could just up and get pregnant again. I'm not saying that. But she is still young and has the opportunity to get pregnant again.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about fictional pregnancies, not real life ones, fictionals. She can get pregnant again. She's not even in her 20s. You know what I'm saying? So yes, she had this abortion for Kanan. But at the same time, she has so much more life to actually leave. And also at the same point, she's so up under Kanan's behind. Where's this baby gonna get raised? It has to be raised. You need money. You need stability. You need everything like that happening. And I'm not to say that she's not gonna get pregnant and say, I don't know, season 5. Since it was her idea to move to the new place and not poop where you work.
Yes.
Kanan is mentally not, and I'm not to blame Kanan. He's young, but he's dumb young. So this is a blessing. I just see it more as women think more than men. Men are the reactors. Women are the thinkers. This would, to me, would be a long-term plan to get back at Jukebox.
Mm-hmm.
So that is why I agree with you, but I'll pivot. Okay.
I also agree with what you said. That's a very good point. The last thing I do want to mention very quickly, it was a smart move for Kanan to get his own place, but is that also a distraction? Get him away from his place, and that's why, because now he's focused on getting a place with her. He's not thinking about anything else that could happen. So there's a lot of different angles to play around with that, but I do want to make a quick comment because you mentioned Breeze, and I have to make this comment, right? Because this is probably something that Gary's going to laugh at because he's seen this. I've seen a ton of videos online of people who have this theory because Unique showed up in the previous episode and there was a Breeze before they showed him. Oh, Unique is Breeze. I just want to say, I thought that was hilarious. I'm not saying if it's right or wrong. It's very entertaining theory, though. And if they do decide to go in that direction, okay, job well done. But I laughed when I saw that because it's like a lot of people are thinking very hardly about this stuff. And obviously, Sasha Penn, he's having fun with this. So I didn't want to make that comment, though, because I thought that was hilarious.
But wouldn't it have been more of a better opportunity for him to be like, I'm Breeze during that whole montage of him getting his hair cut and getting back into his clothes again, to be like, nah, I'm Breeze.
Oh, yeah.
They call me Unique. I'm this new guy. I come in with the Breeze. I don't think Breeze is going to actually ever exist. This is Mephisto. I don't think we're getting him.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I asked, and they had slapped in my face, so who knows?
I think we'll get it, but they might leave it till season 5, or maybe hint towards it at the end of this one or something. But yeah, I don't think we're getting it just yet. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned you think that Richard has been watching too much Lifetime. But Richard, he told me he watches Tubi. Like he doesn't watch Lifetime. So,
Well, listen, I will admit I've seen some of those Tubi movies are entertaining. They, so they're not all garbage. But go ahead, Dana.
There's some good Tubi movies. That Jonathan Majors Tubi movie was real good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the one about the woman who saw that baby, that white baby, on the highway in the diaper, but made that whole thing up with the clown. That was a good movie too.
I haven't seen that one. I gotta check that one out.
Y'all gotta check, y'all gotta go into the deep Tubies because there's some crazy things on here. So yes, I meant Tubi. See, I'm so used to Lifetime because I've been around with Lifetime so much longer. I forgot the black Tubi is just black Lifetime.
Yeah,
but extra.
Exactly.
Just extra. A lot of extras. But y'all watch that and check out also The Whore Next Door because that was a good one too.
I think Tubi just came to the UK recently, so I gotta catch up on some of the Tubi stuff.
Are you serious? That's ridiculous because Borders is like from your country. That's all UK.
Yeah, I just noticed the app on the Fire Stick recently. I was like, oh, okay, so we have it here now.
Yay! So go watch the Jonathan Majors one, and then go watch my interview with Jonathan Majors.
Oh yeah, we'll do. But yeah, great theories. And Richard, yeah, I've seen some pretty far-fetched Breeze theories as well. Like the one of the latest ones I saw is B-Rilla is Breeze, and I'm like, that makes no sense. Like, makes no sense at all. Just because
he's too scared. That it couldn't have been him because you saw him sweating and thinking, "Oh Lord, oh Lord." Nah. Oh, and also by the way, because I monologue too much. Yeah, my whole thing is Unique definitely killed OC because he was the only one who was in more in contact, and he was the one where he was playing both sides of everything. And now that he has the money, there really is no reason for OC to exist anymore because he'll just end up telling Kanan, and he can't have that loose thread. Even though he ran to Raquel and was like, "Look, everything that I have, here's my plans." And then of course, she could go and tell Kanan, which I don't think she did. She told everybody, but no, she did tell Kanan. I'm old. Forgive me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious what happened with OC. I hope we get that answer in the next episode.
The streets needed a body. He's under a mattress with fame.
Oh, so he got the same fate as Famous. Yeah, that's not good. But okay, yeah. So moving on. So let's get to B-Rilla since we brought him up. Do you think B-Rilla's actions are going to come back to haunt him somehow? After everything that happened with the robbery and everything. Now, Richard, I think it was Richard, said something interesting about that, about the people that he went on the robbery with. I'm pretty sure that they're not going to be too happy about how this turned out, especially if, what if they left some evidence or something in there that connects them and it comes back on them or something? Or, maybe they're just upset that they didn't get the score that they intended. And, maybe they start digging into things and they try to hit another lick. Maybe they're like, oh, so there's this guy called Lou that's working at your label too. Let's try and get him or something. Like, so do you think, how do you think this is going to come back to haunt B-Rilla basically? And Dana, I'll go to you first.
So we have to remember, those were white people that died, not black. They were white people that died, and they was renting from a music executives, from a big time music executive at the time who owns with the record label, and that's a lot to deal with. So here's the thing. Even though he wasn't in the house, he was the driver. He knew exactly what would happen. You had the two guys, I think it was the two guys and the guy who got shot. Plus also brother sister girl who was in that kind of store where the guy was like, "Hey, we should go in the back." He's like, "No, she knows everything about everything. I'm not going to tell you something that she wouldn't know, sister girl. She also knows too." Maybe not because she was sitting up there with the book, but I'm going to tell you this. If somebody goes in and they like, and I got a book like that, I'm going to pretend that I'm reading it, but I'm going to like, right? So I'm wondering between those, what did I count? 4 people, is someone's going to say something. I don't think that it's going to be the main guy who was in that store because, he would also go down in flames as well. But I'm wondering what's going to happen with the guy that was shot. Now, clearly he cannot go to the regular hospital. And I'm also wondering because we didn't see the actual robbery take place, we don't know if the lights were turned on. We just saw the flashes from the gun. We didn't even really see. We saw like a piece of that, but we heard it more than we saw. So we don't know whether or not there was, lights turned on. But I feel like I can assure you, especially when you're going around with that man, I forgot the name of that music executive. Please forgive me. But he seems like someone who has a security system in play. Just in general, period. He may be paranoid. He did that whole monologue about, why the Jews are in the money with the music and the thing. But it just also seems to me like, hey, I respect you as a business partner, but don't know black people don't live next to me. Or just whatever. In general, I feel that he has a really well lit security system that will be able to figure out who it was in that place. Because it was a robbery and a murder. So I think through that, the investigators will be knocking at the door the next episode. And B-Rilla, the way how he's like, oh lordy, I'm wondering if he would even rat his own self out. Now, they did a huge job on saying, he has a daughter and he has a mother who is not the baby, the mother is the baby's mother, not a baby mama, but a baby's mother. And I'm wondering if See, they did such a good job at showing us that I feel that sometimes that is how they foreshadow, and now he has to go to prison and leave the family behind. And it's supposed to be that sad moment. That's what it kind of felt like to me. So even though he's breathing that sigh of relief when that man walked through the door and was like, hey, guess what happened? At the same time, there is still going to be that cloud over his head because they have to do an investigation. So that's what I feel is going to happen. It is going to catch up on him either through the tapes or through the other guys talking, especially maybe the one who got shot. We don't even know the outcome of the guy who got shot. Is he alive? We don't know. I don't think it was serious when he got shot. Maybe it was like a leg, but who knows?
Yeah, and he might feel like he got shot for nothing, and he might be upset, like I got hit in my leg over this, like I can't walk anymore or something. Like he might feel very bitter about that. But yeah, Richard, what's your thoughts on B-Rilla? Like, how do you see this situation coming back on him?
I think it's exactly what a combination of what you both said. When you go back to the conversation they had when they were about to do the robbery, they was expecting B-Rilla to go in there with them. And he said, nah, I can't do that because I work for these people. They know me. And the guy said, okay, we'll make an exception just this one time. So I feel like somebody is going to be very salty about that. The fact that he was not in there with them, and they will be the ones to say, yeah, he has something to do with this. So if the police do find out about his friend, they come to that place, I can definitely see them ratting him out 100%. And then we'll have to see where they go with that. But the other question I would like to ask is, because obviously this is on B-Rilla's mind, do either of you or the commenters think he's actually going to try to confess this to Lou? Because they didn't have an interaction about this in this particular episode, but I think that could happen as a possibility. But I'm just curious, what do y'all think about that?
No, I like what you said about like maybe the guy gets questioned and then he snitches on B-Rilla or whatever, and then now B-Rilla has to deal with this issue. Maybe the cops come to question him and stuff, and if B-Rilla finds out that this guy is speaking with the police or something, maybe that's when he'll go to Lou for help and be like, look, this is what happened, and now this guy's like, trying to snitch on me, and I need some help to make this go away. And that's something that brings Lou back into the streets a little bit as well. Um, that could be something that happens.
I like that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
When I spoke to the actor who plays B-Rilla, he did allude to the fact that him and Lou have become very close. And that is a relationship because he needs him, because he can't be by himself. Because as we saw, he starts doing stupid things. I feel that we're at that moment where he can probably trust him with his secret, be like, hey, guess what? That robbery, that was me. But not really, but it was still me. Um, and Lou could somehow turn that around and be like, put it in your music. So instead of being like, oh, I'm going to rat you to the cops, this is how we get a change in his music situation. And he could become really big behind this. And then maybe later on, oh yeah, look, he's getting really, we know what he's talking about. Y'all don't know, but we know. And then that's like, hey, police officer, man, I was part of that robbery thing too. I don't know, but that's how you end up getting B-Rilla in jail. I don't really see a happy ending for B-Rilla at this moment, just because I'm always like Debbie Downer over here. But if there is any kind of saving grace where it does become this positive thing, it just ends up channeling it into the music. And that ends up bringing in a different kind of flavor from the, and then I kill you, and now you're dead. Brrr, I sprayed you in the head music.
I like that. Very good theory.
Yeah. Good theories overall. And for the people listening, definitely chime in on that. Let us know what you think of the whole B-Rilla drama in this episode. Um, so yeah, another question that I have to ask you guys. I mentioned it a bit in my takeaways, and you guys have kind of touched on it too. I know Dana did, but yeah. So is Marvin built to wear the crown, to be a leader, to be the head of the table of the family? And if he does find his way to being his own man and being the leader of his own organization or whatever, how would that work with the family? Like, would he be separate from the family? Would they turn on him? Would they support him? Would Jukebox be there for him? Or is Jukebox going to be with Kanan? Like, what does that dynamic look like if Marvin was to be the head of the table? And would Raquel step away or something? Like, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with Raquel. It does seem like there might be a downfall for her coming. Who knows? Or she could bounce back and get one over on Unique. Who knows? We know that she is resilient. She is calculated, so she's perfectly capable of flipping the script on Unique, especially since, like Dana said, he basically gave up his whole game plan. So she could flip the script. But let's imagine for a moment that she does have a downfall and Marvin is forced to kind of step up and be the guy. How do you see that panning out? Does he have it in him to lead? Um, and if not, what would be his downfall? Because we know that they allude to the fact that he used to be an addict and stuff. So you know could this be so stressful for him that that his therapy kind of wears off, like he stops practicing his therapy and stuff, and then he starts slipping back into his old ways and taking drugs again to cope with the pressures of leadership and all that stuff. Like, how do you see it playing out? There's so many ways it could play out, but you know what do you think might happen if Marvin was to wear the crown? So I'm going to go to you first, Richard. What do you think?
Well, I think by the end of this season, Marvin is going to show Stefano who's the boss. Yes, that's going to happen.
Oh, whoa.
Here's the thing. here's the thing. This is what one thing I like about the show is a lot of things that can go in different directions. When he had the conversation with Stefano, and Stefano made the recommendation that he should take over instead of Raquel, you saw how loyal Marvin was. He said, "No, I would never do that to my sister, and you better not ever come to me with this conversation again." And then you notice for this entire season, Raquel has been telling Marvin, "Hey, we may need to take out Stefano." So I think to go, because Dana made this prediction already, by the end of the season, I think Tony Danza is going to be done with this show because it's headed in that direction. But it's interesting because this whole game that Unique is playing and the fact that he's involved in is that they are trying to get Stefano's people to take him out. So if somebody was to take out Stefano and it's not his people, I wonder if they're going to want some retaliation as well. So it's a very connected type of situation. But to answer your question, Gary, do I think that Marvin could take over? I think that he could, but I actually think that will not happen because a lot of the decisions that Marvin has made will come back to haunt him. Again, the whole thing about early Tyler, that is a very important detail because Stefano approached him in this episode and said, yeah, one of the guys we know was found out in the river. And obviously they just, and I like how they put that in the actual episode because it's just like a line that was said and then there was nothing else said about it. So that I think was a tidbit for you to pay attention to because it will be revisited later because he does tell Marvin, we're not done with this conversation. We'll come back to that later because he also still wants them to basically move Raquel aside and have Marvin take over. So I do want to see where they're going with this, but I do think ultimately Marvin and Raquel are going to have to take out Stefano. They have no option. It's going to slowly get to that point, but I do want to see where it goes. But the last point that I do want to mention before you go to Dana, you were talking about Marvin becoming an addict again. In my opinion, Marvin right now is a violence addict because this entire season he's been roughing people up left and right. So clearly, even though the anger management is gone completely, like Dana said when she interviewed London Brown, the anger management is gone. There's no more breathing. Now it's just violence, beating people up left and right. So I kind of feel like, yeah, he won't have a problem doing that. And you saw how both him and Lou were they're ready to go after Unique right after they heard Unique is back. We got to take him out immediately. So let's see where they're going with this. But to answer your question, Gary, I don't think that Marvin will get the opportunity to become a leader because I think the decisions that he has made will come back to haunt him, and it will not be in a good way. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I like your theory about maybe Marvin has to take out Stefano. Maybe he's going to be forced to do that. And yeah, that is a good mention as well about the fact that some guy got killed and thrown in the river and stuff. Like I'm glad that they added that little detail because that's surely going to connect back to the early Tyler plot. So yeah, that was a good point as well. But Dana, what's your thoughts on Marvin being a leader?
Okay, so I will say this. I don't see Marvin being a leader. He can't even lead his daughter. He's more terrified than anything. And I think the little job that he had with Stefano was cute, but they were like little job things. And he got to assert his power. But guess what? It was one-on-one. And usually it was like a sneak attack. It was a little, walk through the door, give him the money, that kind of thing. It wasn't something that was really serious. It wasn't something where you had to plan out and be strategic with all these different people coming at you at the end of the day. He played the side part, and he was really good at the side part. From what has been shown to me, he is not that leader kind of role, which is why I always said Raquel is the best when it comes to leading. She can compartmentalize. She can pretend to be the hardest when whatever it is, you don't really see her hysterical and falling apart like that because she knows that she can't do that. Remember the whole therapy session that she was asked to attend when she thought it was just supposed to be about Lulu, and Lulu was like, nah, it's you too. He's like, I see you in pain. And she's like, I see you in pain. You the one who's the crackhead. That kind of thing. And then she's explaining how, no, I deal with a lot, but I learned how to put it in its own little place and never have to revisit it again. So Marvin is not the kind of person who could do that, because we saw him previously react very violently when it came to how he felt someone disrespected him. And then when I asked him, like, hey, what is going on? Because remember when the guy was like, oh, you just basically, that's your massa. Stefano's the massa and you just in the house. He killed him. Like, you letting words hurt your feelings that much where you got to just start killing people? And he's already down on the floor. You done kicked him half to death and holding the stomach on my guts. You done kicked me in my heart. And you go and you kill him just because he wouldn't said, oh, that's your massa? So he does not have that control that he used to have again. Now, he doesn't really have any kind of like hobbies where he can, take that emotion and put it into, I don't know, what side project, build the house, buy a dog, something like that. We don't see that. We just see him act out violently towards others. And I think that no, he does not have that leadership skill. And as much as I could not stand Unique in his slow behavior, the thing about Unique is he knew patience. He knew when to take his time. He knew when to handle things. Now he done went crazy too. But the point is, he knew when to react and when to not to react. He barely ever reacted. But the point is, Marvin does not have those skills. He does not have the skills to make him a leader. And it sure can't be Lulu, because he done sitting up there, sensitive as all can be with anything, crying over fame. So he doesn't have that. So I just feel that at this moment, he does not make the best leader. Now, I found it to be very interesting that he was the one who said, oh, we have to take out Stefano. It wasn't, I don't recall that it was Raquel who said that. But to me, it seems like he's going to have to take out Stefano. Now, I'm not going to say that taking out Stefano won't hurt him, because that, he built that relationship. But at the end of the day, he's taking out an old man. It's not even someone who's the same age, same vitality. Stefano is an old man. I'm sure he'll just walk into the house, click the gun. There'll be a little monologue. You do what you have to do, because Stefano realized that, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said we're going to have to take out Raquel, because at the end of the day, that is his sister. But that'll just be it. And then he'll kill him. But he's an old man. Find someone of his same everything for him to kill. And I don't really think that it'll be that way. And I'm not to say that he's not like someone who can go pow, pow, pow with people, but the leadership could. I just don't see it at this moment. I think Jukebox would be a better leader, as she is right now, than her daddy. Because remember, even with Jukebox is like, I can't even tell you how to be he can't even be a father. He's like, tell me how to be a father. And she's like, I can't tell you how to do that. He needs someone to lead him. He is not a leader.
Yeah,
Hello?
I like the fact you pointed out. He's been very quick to the violence this season because, yeah, like he really has. Like when Stefano sent him out on that mission to deal with the guy with the bar, and he lost his temper and killed him. And then the same thing happened with what was his name, at the warehouse. I forgot his name already, but yeah, like when he was just he just alluded to the fact that he might talk to someone, and Marvin lost it and just killed him right there. Like there was no tact to it. There was no, okay, I'm gonna follow this guy and see what he does or anything like that. It's just straight up shoot and kill. So
And they
I think
were old.
that is gonna work against him, like him being so quick to his gun. That's definitely gonna work against him, and that's what probably prevents him being a leader, because there's no tact at all with these murders. Like he just loses his temper and shoots and kills. So
Well, let me make a quick comment, Gary. I want to just say I'm very disappointed that you do not remember Terry, because that you told me that's one of your favorite characters so far this season. Terry, rest in peace, Terry.
nah, he's not. But but yeah, like Marvin is he doesn't have, he doesn't have Raquel's critical thinking skills, definitely. Like he's not a strategist, but he is a top tier muscle guy. Like he's a top tier soldier. Like he really like gets stuff done. If we think back to when he killed Sal in, was that the last season or season two? I can't remember. But like, he's the one that can pull off these high risk hits and stuff like that. So that's his skill. His skill is being the underboss or soldier or whatever. He can't be the head of the family. So that's what makes me really curious about what they're setting up there. And I do think there's merit to Richard's theory that they're setting up for him to kill Sal. Maybe that happens at the end of the season. We still haven't had anyone in that furnace yet, because they did set that up in the previous season of like that furnace is somewhere that they're probably going to put someone, somebody's going to die there. So maybe it's Sal, maybe Sal dies in his own furnace. Like, so go ahead, Dana.
Okay, random thought popped in my head. Sal's been in this game for a long time. He knows a lot of people would come after him. He knows probably that he screwed up by saying, "Oh, we should probably take out Raquel," right? Who's to say he's not preparing this, and this is how Marvin dies? Because somebody got to die. But
I agree with that theory. He definitely could be planning this. We just have to wait and see what happens. But I do want to also make this comment. I believe, I'm not sure if it was you or Gary who said this on a previous episode. I do think if somebody dies, and if it's a situation where Raquel is the one who is getting saved from death, is possibly going to be Lou that protects her from getting killed, because they've had this character do a full circle. His relationship with Raquel is now much better than it was in the previous season. So it would make sense for him to sacrifice himself in his final moments, if it comes to that, to protect her. And so that might happen. But I do like what you said about Marvin, because that can happen too. We just have to wait and see, I guess. Oh.
Yeah, sorry, I missed the last part of what you said. I had to tend to something.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. No,
But yeah,
it's
go
all
ahead.
good. I just had said that to go to what Dana. I agree with what Dana said, and I also said it may be possible that to go to the theory about Lou dying, maybe he dies protecting Raquel, since they've built a better bond this season based on everything we've seen so far.
Yeah, yeah, that's something I could totally see. And just given how protective Lou was in this episode, going back to that, where he was ready to stand up for Raquel and the family. So that would make a lot of sense if, like, if Unique has her in a compromising situation or whatever, and he steps in to save her, and maybe something happens to Lou. So yeah, I could see that 100%. But but yeah, so any final thoughts on this episode before we wrap this up? Um, it would, like, in my opinion, because I know Dana said she had mixed feelings about the episode. It was an okay episode. I feel like last week's episode was a lot stronger than this one, but this one, it was decent. A lot of some things happened. I guess it progressed the story forward, and there was some great acting. Could it have been better? Maybe, but it was decent. I would say it was a decent episode. It's just that last week's episode was so good that this one following it definitely it's a hard act to follow with the last episode. But it was decent, and it makes me curious about what's coming next. And now, obviously, we have to wait 2 weeks for the next one. So there you go. But any final thoughts on this episode? So I'm going to go to you first, Richard.
No, I thought it was a pretty good episode. I do think, like you said, they were very strategic in terms of taking a break after this episode, because as a viewer, after you see what Unique did in this episode, all the stuff happening, you want to know what happens next. So, unfortunately, we have to wait 2 weeks to get some more answers. But overall, I thought it did its job in progressing the storyline. So I look forward to seeing what happens in the next episode.
Yeah, and with the mum dying as well, at the end, that was probably like a good scene to have a break on as well, like just to let that settle, kind of thing, let that sink in. So yeah, I agree with that. But Dana, any final thoughts on this episode?
No, I thought it was a very good episode. It keeps us, the plot is moving. I didn't exactly see that, hey, the whole conversation of we have to take out Stefano and we have to take out Raquel, even though they've been kind of saying this, but not saying this. But it's really surprising when it came from Stefano about taking out Raquel, because he, through the interviews that I've had, is always given like the impression that he really does admire and love her. So I was kind of shocked about that. But this will be a very interesting kind of season that will end up wrapping up, because we do have Unique. Everybody now knows the master plan. So I guess it's more of him just, executing those plans and someone finally being executed. And, what's going to happen with Kanan in terms of thinking that it was Raquel, and also his money is missing, and OC, I still say, is dead, and whether or not he ends up tag teaming with Unique this season. So it'll be very interesting, and I look forward to what is going to happen with this entire season. As much as, even though I thought that the ending was very corny, I liked how it ended, because again, it showed how Raquel has to be the strong one in the family, because the two other ones are too weak to accomplish anything. So I think it was a really great metaphor there. So we'll just see what ends up happening next. And then the way we forgot, like when she died, right before she died, she said, make sure you take care of your son. Look out for Kanan as well. So I'm wondering, does this mean that she's going to honor her son's last wish? But then this is how we get the poetic thing of, I'm trying to take care of you, and then Kanan's trying to kill her. I don't know, but it'll be very interesting how this all pans out. But I'm looking forward to those last words and how those specifically play out as well.
Yeah, real quick, because usually I watch it twice, but I didn't get to watch it twice this week. But so with Stefano, when he was talking to Marvin, did he actually, like, was his whole thing that we should take out Raquel, or was it like, because I thought it was more like, oh, Raquel needs to kind of step down as the boss, and you need to, you need to be the boss. But like, did he actually say to take her out? You're muted, by the way.
Okay, I'm muted. Sorry. How else do you interpret she needs to step down? She's not going to retire. So how exactly do you do that? Do you set up a retirement plan for her? Do you get her, I don't know, disability? I'm confused as to how that should be interpreted. Other than she gotta go, we gotta kill her. Like, it just, it's not like, hey, find a new job, go be a gardener instead.
Oh yeah,
So how
yeah.
did you interpret that?
I see what you're saying, because yeah, Raquel wouldn't just let that happen. Like, she would fight.
She
She
tried.
would push back.
Remember, she was gonna be like, I'm clean, I'm great. And then that's when she ran into all the problems. And then that's when she started to pay the police. And that's when Dum Dum is like, oh, that means you killed Famous. Even though she gave him the money. Wait, can I just say something? Because it's all coming back to me, and sometimes my memories come in like little flashes. She explained to Kanan that she had to pay the police from the season that she started paying the police because of a whole situation as to why she's back into the game. Remember, I'm clean. I'm not in the game anymore. And then all these problems started happening. And then he was like, "Yo, no, Ma, you said you was clean." And she was like, "Yeah, but it's too many problems. I got to pay the cops off." So he always knew that she was playing the police. Why is he so dumb? I'm frustrated.
Kanan's jumping the
Kanan's
gun.
just being dumb.
Yeah, I do think he's jumping the gun on that. Like, because just seeing, your mother hand them the cash, that doesn't mean she killed Famous. Like.
And she explained to you from day one why she was giving cash to the cops. Oh my gosh, this boy is just. See, this is what I mean. Snaps and Pops are real smart because they knew exactly how to manipulate this boy. This boy is dumb. They figured out, oh, you killed Ronnie without a good contact in your business associates. And now you have to pay this amount too. And we're going to put it in your head. Oh, look at your mama. She paying cops. And, oh, my mom would never do it. See, I'm done. I'm going to rant. Okay. Richard.
Oh no, I just was going to say, yeah, very, very good thoughts. So Kanan is just as crazy as Unique. For Unique thinking that Ronnie teamed up with Raquel, who he hates, to take out Unique. So yeah, they're both very crazy individuals.
But there's a difference between the two of them because Unique only saw a piece of things. Unique saw what he thought that he saw because of he was given a specific kind of information. Kanan on his own jumped up and was like, "Oh, it was my mom's that killed Fame because I saw her hand the police the money." See, Unique never had an explanation. Kanan was given the entire explanation.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he was given the explanation, and then he remembers what happened with D Wiz, and that's why he's like, yeah, she could have definitely did something to Famous.
I'm frustrated.
Yeah. Well, there it is. That is going to be it for this week. So people definitely chime in the comments. Let us know your thoughts and theories. And yeah, it's going to be 2 weeks before we come back and do another episode. So I want to take this time to wish everybody a happy Easter. I have been informed that you guys don't get like the same days off that we get over here because, over here we get Good Friday, we get Easter Monday, Easter Sunday, and all that stuff. But in America, I guess it's a bit different, and you guys probably still have to work. So, that's kind of unfortunate. But I do hope everybody has like a happy Easter with their families and stuff, especially if you got little ones, and all that. So we'll see you guys in 2 weeks, and until then, take good care of yourselves. And yeah, I can't wait to see what's going to happen in episode 8. Peace out, everyone.